Because when I came back from serving overseas, I saw the state of this country, and I was highly disappointed. And when I came back to Oklahoma, I said, hey, here's a pocket that appreciates veterans. Here's a pocket of people that still have conservative American values. Here's a populace full of Christians. Here's where we take our stand. Here's where we make a change to what's going on in America. All right, we're back with another reaction video. I'm often asked why I decided to run for governor, and I tell them I saw something on YouTube from Governor Drummond that I definitely did not agree with. And if he's the only military veteran that's running, I have to jump in. We cannot let this stand. So let's take a look at the video that sparked my gubernatorial race.
At 3 a.m., my four ship of F-15s crossed the border with 48 fighter bombers in tow. As we entered Iraq, we were encountered with a barrage of anti-aircraft artillery and surface-to-air missiles. 4 MiG-29s launched against us, and we repelled them, and they retreated. And as we entered the southwest corner of Baghdad, the men behind me dropped their ordnance, and as they left, my number 3 and 4 men led them towards safety, and I stayed on target until the last was off as mission commander, and then provided rear guard as we fled back to Saudi Arabia.
So as he just said there's billions and billions of dollars worth of aircraft that are in this mission. And his objective is to stay behind, be the support so that they don't have someone sneak up behind them and hit some of our key assets as they're on their way back out.
About 100 miles from safety, I was ordered to go back north. My wingman and I went back north and were identified abandoned about 120 miles on my nose. I found him, gave us coordinates, and he was confirmed, this is abandoned, you are cleared to kill. And as a fighter pilot in combat, when you're cleared to kill, that means you run your intercept, you put the dot in the circle, you push the button, and he dies. But as I ran that intercept, it did not make sense to me. I concluded that he must have been a pilot from my strike package that was disoriented and went north deeper into Baghdad, providing the separation, and thus coming back out of Baghdad, identified as abandoned.
Now, I don't know if I started in the right place, but he said he was in charge of this operation. So already he's basically admitting to a failure that he's allowed someone from his strike package to be lost, if that's actually the case.
I elected not to shoot. At 25 miles, I was ordered to kill. At 20, the new voice ordered me to kill again. And at 18, the third voice that I knew to be a one-star general ordered me to kill.
Okay. Now, to all of my military veterans and active duty military personnel, explain to me what would happen if you were to disobey a direct order. So, while I understand that this is a wartime environment, decisions are going to have to be made in the moment, we still have a chain of command. That is still what makes our military the best military in the world ever, is we have a system in place. Sure, that system makes mistakes every once in a while, but it's overall, it's there for the betterment of Oklahoma, the Air Force, the Army, all the different branches. This is what's made us great. Following orders, chain of command. If anybody disobeys a direct order, there are strict consequences. Very strict. Now, most of us in the military, we know that officers are very often held to a higher standard. And me being an enlisted personnel, we look at officers as sort of upper management. They don't always understand what's going on. They're not really in the weeds. They're upper management. Then enlisted and your normal officers look at pilots, unfortunately, based off their demeanor, as entitled officers that are even above the other officers. And there's something to that, and which I'll admit to. The entire job of the Air Force, if you're not a pilot, is to support pilots. You're maintaining it, you're taking care of the personnel and the family. That's your point. So it does give these pilots an inflated ego, realizing that an entire branch of the military is there to basically support them. I don't understand why that takes away the humility, but that's more of a personal problem, and why enlisted and your everyday officers, we kind of look at pilots a little different. Now let's continue.
I disobeyed 3 direct orders.
You don't get to disobey 3 direct orders. The only reason he was able to get to Order 2 and Order 3 was because he was strapped to a $1 billion aircraft out in the air playing Maverick, playing Top Gun. He would have been shut down. He would not be flying that aircraft. He would be under arrest. He would not be the Attorney General. He would probably be in jail somewhere. When you don't follow that direct order, you are putting billions of dollars of aircraft, the mission, in jeopardy. The lives of those Americans that are in those aircraft, and the lives of the Americans in which they are flying to now that the mission is done. You are putting everyone in jeopardy based off a gut feeling. No other personnel is out there disobeying 3 direct orders, especially from a general. So either A, this isn't a true story, and that would probably be better for him, or B, this man took advantage of the fact that he wasn't sitting there in front of his superiors and decided to take a U.S. military F-15 hostage and do what he wants to do and put American lives, American mission during a wartime in jeopardy. But I think he knew this. I think he knows this. Let's follow.
I ran the intercept. I was right. They were wrong. I escorted that pilot back to the same air base. He was a Saudi Tornado pilot.
Okay. Now let's be real clear here. And let me pull this up to show you. The enemy, the Iraqi forces, utilize a variety of aircraft. Not a whole lot, but one of the ones that they used were the Tornado. This is important, y'all.
When we landed, he gave me a formal bow, and he went east, I went west. When I pulled into my chocks, I was met by military police. They arrested me.
Rightfully so.
Put me in handcuffs.
Rightfully
and
so.
led me into the ready room. In the meanwhile, that officer told his commander, who called the United States side and told my commander.
What happened, what he's saying is he decided not to fire. He disobeyed 3 direct orders not to fire on what looks like an enemy aircraft coming back to hit the tail of our outgoing forces. And his main job was to be there to protect those forces. That's what he was there for. That's why he was one of the last ones coming back. All right? And this is his testimony. I'm not making any of this up. And that's why we're doing a reaction video to it rather than me just going out here and saying it and posting it on X and stuff like that. Like, you people need to see this for yourselves. Our military members across Oklahoma, across the United States, need to see this for themselves. They have to. Because just taking my word for it or somebody else's word for it doesn't work nowadays. All right? You were arrested, rightfully so. You should not have been flying that aircraft. You clearly weren't the one that should have been making any sort of decisions because you have no respect for the authority in which put you in the position you were in. By your own admission, you're a criminal. By your own admission, you don't follow orders. How could you expect Oklahoma troops to follow your orders when you're governor? What if they made a gut feeling decision and just didn't want to do it? Well, they're not some privileged rich kid that gets to make those decisions. You are. If this doesn't prove that he doesn't really have much in common with you, it should prove to you that his integrity and his leadership is not something that we should have running our state. He probably shouldn't even be an attorney or the attorney general based off this admission. This blows my mind. And when I saw this, no way. No way. If you're going to be the American veteran running, then I'm running against you. All right? I had 2 American airmen going to commit suicide, and I was able to talk them down and save their lives. American airmen. I'm not getting any medals. I'm not some war hero because of it. These guys were able to then deploy. These guys were able to become great members of our Air Force because I followed orders. I followed my training. I had integrity. I stopped what was going on, and I made sure to help those who were under my command. Let's continue, though I don't really want to. I'm kind of tired of seeing this. But every time I go out and I knock on a door, nobody's seen this. When I spoke to state senators and congressmen, they weren't aware of this. Now, they all have some sort of disdain for them. I was at this 2A convention the other day where all the gubernatorial candidates were supposed to be able to speak. They didn't let me because they said I didn't RSVP. And I think what it came down to is Gintner wanted to try to come in at the last minute and speak as well, but they didn't allow him. And you could tell when we were there, they were putting videos up. They had a cardboard cutout. They were bashing this guy. And I don't necessarily think that's fair. I'm not the type of guy that wants to talk a bunch of trash behind someone's back. That's why I'm making this video. If you see this, Mr. Drummond, you know you were wrong. I'm just calling out what it is that you spoke about. I'm not going to go behind your back and talk trash and do these type of things. I'm going to say it straight to your face. And this is about as close as I can get to your face because I haven't had any responses out from you. So the Oklahomans, the American people, they need to hear this. This guy said this during his declaration for running for governor. This is public. This is on YouTube, okay? You can see it down here. KOCO News in Oklahoma covered it. This is a major problem. If you're voting for this guy, you're part of the problem.
And as I walked into the ready room, I was met by a 3-star general who said, take off his handcuffs, award him a Distinguished Flying Cross. He did not kill a Saudi prince.
So the only reason why this guy isn't locked up in jail is because it ended up being a Saudi prince in that tornado. And that tornado is an aircraft that was also used by the Iraqi enemy. So he didn't know that there was a Saudi prince in there. Luck was involved. Now, let's just give him the benefit of the doubt and say that his gut feeling was involved. Well, in the military, your gut feeling does not matter. Right now, I don't care about your gut feeling. This scenario ended up good for the Saudi prince, and it ended up good for you because of privilege. If that was anybody else other than a Saudi prince, you'd be in jail. You'd have been arrested, you would have never been an attorney, you would never have been the attorney general, and you darn sure would never be running for governor. But the only reason you are is because it ended up being a Saudi prince. Happenstance, luck. And that's what you're basing your votes on? This is what you're going to applaud like sheep? Because you don't know. I'm trying to give the voter the benefit of the doubt. They just don't know. They're not veterans. They've never served in the military. Maybe they've never even watched a military movie because this is pretty much 101. You obey orders or you're the criminal. Period. How is this being applauded? How is this guy a war hero when he put American lives, American mission, and billions of dollars in jeopardy? How? So yeah, don't just buy, oh, I'm an American veteran, and that makes me some sort of person that you can trust. Absolutely not. In the Air Force, we preach integrity first. It is instilled in me. I can't sit idly by and let this just happen. I can't. And you shouldn't either. This is not something to applaud. This is something to be disgusted by. This isn't something you vote for. This is something you get out of office. You people need to wake up. Following some guy because he had a burger burn and he leads you to the feed like cattle doesn't mean you need to applaud and accept everything that comes out of his mouth. That's my problem with the voter. You're lazy. You have no accountability. You've allowed these people to turn you into sheep. You're part of the problem. So I suggest you get out there, do more research on these candidates, find out who's funding them, find out their past, their history, and make an informed decision. But going for this guy or some career politician that changes over to be a Republican just because he knows he's never going to win as a Democrat, and then he says whatever's pleasing to your ear and you fall for it and you vote for him, and you see his track record over 8 years, or you see this guy's track record, and you still vote for them? Come on, guys. Just because there's a $1,000, $10,000 something commercial doesn't mean you got to fall for it. Just because this guy wants to spend tons and tons of money from who knows who to make another commercial, which I'm sure we'll cover as a reaction video, but he's trying to play Yellowstone. He's trying to pretend like he's John Dutton riding horses and jumping off the horse and having a gun and stuff like that. I don't want someone that's fake coming into our governor seat. I don't need a Hollywood actor or someone that doesn't follow orders, someone with pretty much no integrity based off this, running my state. Well, Myles, you don't have a lot of experience in litigation and law. And guess what? Most of the rest of Oklahomans don't either. And I wouldn't say that makes you a good leader. That makes you a good subject matter expert. Go be a bureaucrat. Go write laws. Go run for the Senate or for Congress. But the person who's going to sit in the governor's seat needs to have a backbone, needs to have integrity, needs to fight for Oklahomans. Not try to put another feather in their cap to further their political aspirations. I'd love to go in there, get the job done, and leave. And go back to my lifestyle where I'm helping people more face to face. Because that's what I do. I volunteer, I help communities, I fundraise to my detriment. Because when I came back from serving overseas, I saw the state of this country and I was highly disappointed. And when I came back to Oklahoma, I said, hey, here's a pocket that appreciates veterans. Here's a pocket of people that still have conservative American values. Here's a populace full of Christians. Here's where we take our stand. Here's where we make a change to what's going on in America. We say we're fed up. There's no more. We want a real blue-collar guy like Myles Jett sitting in the governor's seat. Put your comments down below if you disagree. Put your comments down below if you do agree. But it's time for change, and it's time for Myles Jett as your governor. I hope to get your vote.